on his own. He didn't want to have to rely on, if he went to the Dodgers, relying on Sasaki and Yamamoto and Ohtani or teams that have other Japanese. So in some ways, Tatsuya Imai got what he wanted.
慣れてないっていうところじゃないですかね、もちろん野球もそうですし、野球以外のね、全部移動でね、チームに帯同したりとかっていうのに自分が思ったよりも苦労してる部分が、あるなっていうのは感じてますね。
Yeah, so he thinks that it's not the schedule, it's just he's not used or he's not able to adjust to the American lifestyle, like other than baseball as well, but baseball and outside of baseball, so that's probably the reason.
What's been outside of baseball? What's been the biggest challenge as far as adjusting?
その野球以外の生活で、慣れるっていう部分では何が一番難しかったですか？
移動だったりもそうですし、その食事のタイミングとかね、日本は試合が終わってホテルに帰ってからホテルでご飯食べたりするんですけど、基本的に球場で全部取ったりとか、そういうのがいろいろタイミングが日本とずれてるっていうか違いがあるんでね。
So, for example, like the travel is different from Japan, and then also the timing when the players eat. So in Japan, the players when they get back to hotel, they eat their dinner, but in here, the players eat at the stadium. So that's one of the things that he have to adjust.
Storylines, Tatsuya Imai, and what he told you and the rest of the media out there about trouble getting adjusted to the lifestyle. What are your thoughts? Then we'll get our players to chime in.
Man, there's a lot of thoughts. And first of all, I want to be sensitive to the situation that Tetsuya Imai is in. He's speaking through an interpreter, and I think it should be noted that this is his third different interpreter since he reported to spring training on the first day of camp. So I'm not sure if that has some impact here too, that he's now had three different people relaying to him what's being said and vice versa. But I wrote the story like I did yesterday because the way that this interpreter spoke, he didn't translate a lot of the answers as Imai. He translated it as like a summation of what he said, using the pronouns he and him as opposed to I. So the interpreter said that Imai is having trouble adjusting to American life, both on the field and off. He mentioned the travel. It should be noted that the Astros just finished a 10-game, 3-city road trip through Sacramento, Denver, and Seattle. Imai has said that the different mounds and different ballparks have given him problems. He mentioned that pitching in weather is not something that he had to do much in Japan. He has talked since spring training about the baseballs and the differences between the baseballs here and in NPB. I think the thing that caught a lot of people by surprise is that he mentioned that, he's eating dinner at different locations and at different times than he did in Japan. The way the interpreter spoke, he said he used that as a for example. I think, that's what he used that as an example to say of some stuff he's had trouble adjusting to. So, I can only read between the lines here. I don't speak Japanese. I can't tell you if there was more context in the question, in the answers that Imai gave as opposed to what we were given. But reading between the lines, it sounds like a guy that's just struggling to adapt. Joe Espada said that every image they have taken on his arm has come back clean, has come back positive. Imai said that as well. There does not seem to be anything structurally wrong with his arm. And if there is, no one is saying it. So they're just going to give him some time, I guess, to better adjust, to build his arm strength up. And then from there, he'll start throwing again. But there is no timetable for him to start throwing again, for when they may get him back on the mound. There's a lot of mystery wrapped in this.
Before we get into stories or technically our reaction as players to this situation, is this just a colossal fail by the Astros organization to not be able to make this a soft landing, or even like because we hear about other organizations, the White Sox brought in the bidets when Murakami signed there. The Dodgers have become a destination for Japanese players because of how they've been able to recruit Shohei and then Yamamoto. Is this a fail by the Astros in the sense that they didn't have an interpreter that for whatever reason didn't work out? And now, have they not catered enough to what Imai needs as one of their biggest, if not their biggest, pitching signing in the offseason?
It doesn't look good, Kratzy. This is a bad look publicly, but I don't know that I can put all the blame on the Astros, right? I have not looked into this, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but a lot of times interpreters are hired and brought on by the players themselves. So it may not be the Astros' fault really that they've had 3 interpreters. That could be something that they had trouble getting one guy in. Like, I'm not sure how that works, so I don't want to wade into those waters. I think everyone knew there was going to be a transition period. The Astros have never signed a player, much less a pitcher, straight from NPB. They have had Japanese players in the past. They had Yusei Kikuchi a couple of years ago. They had Kaz Matsui, but they have never brought a player straight from NPB and put him on the Astros roster. So there was always going to be a learning curve because there's a lot of people here that have never done this before. So everyone was going to kind of be learning on the fly. Because they've now lost Hunter Brown and Christian Javier to injury, 2 of their more important starting pitchers, it has magnified Imai's role in the rotation, and it's magnified this. As far as have they done enough, I was in spring training for 4 of the 6 weeks they were there, and I got written about at the time, but every day they had a new word of the day on the board, 1 in English, 1 in Spanish, 1 in Japanese, and 1 in Taiwanese for Kai Wei Tang. For guys to learn how to say Japanese words, to spell, and they were colloquial terms, baseball terms. And watching Imai in the clubhouse, I mean, he interacted with teammates pretty seamlessly from my vantage point. The team seemed to like him, or seems to like him. I don't want to talk in past tense, but they seem to welcome him in. And the Astros have given Imai a lot of leeway to dictate his schedule, to say, here's how I did it in Japan, here's how I feel comfortable doing it, and they've kind of let him be. And part of that is he throws a bullpen session the day before his starts, which is very peculiar at the major league level, but apparently Imai said he's done this throughout his career. Joe Espada has said before he went on the injured list that as they got to know him better and as they got a better feel for him, they were probably going to approach him and give some suggestions, give some things that maybe they saw he could be doing better or things that maybe they thought he should tweak. But again, I think all of this has been hastened and magnified by the other injuries in their rotation. Because look, if Hunter Brown was healthy, if Christian Javier was healthy and pitching well, and if they didn't have the highest ERA in baseball, then this would certainly be a story, but I don't think it would be as dominant of a storyline. But because you're paying Tetsuya Imai nearly $20 million this year, like, you are paying him to kind of be the guy that shoulders that load now that some of these guys are injured. And it's pretty clear that he right now is not in a position to do that.
When we tweeted out on Foul Territory on Twitter, we ended up, I got a text from a guy who had gone over to Korea and made that transition. And he could not agree more with what Tetsuya Imai told you when you had that interview through the interpreter. He said it's a lonely feeling. It feels like you're the only one out there and you're trying to set, there's no reprieve from being uncomfortable in a city or a country, even when you get onto the field, which is a new place too. So have the Astros talked to you, or have you asked them anything about what the next step is in the sense of making it feel comfortable? Because it sounds like they've done a lot of things to cater to what he needs, but that comfort level, is there something that, or even his teammates, about welcoming him in some way, or just different things?
Kratzy, I think that's a question for the coming days, because this kind of came out of nowhere yesterday. Joe Espada had already addressed the media in his normal pregame media session. The clubhouse was closed, and Tetsuya Imai came out and was going to address his injury, and all this came out, and it was like, all right, like, now I think now the story starts to kind of move forward a little bit. So I think that's probably a thing for the next couple of days. But as far as Imai goes, I think, and he even said, his interpreter said that he said this last night. He said, maybe it's a positive to be on the IL right now so he can have some time, like without the stakes of having to pitch every fifth day, without kind of being in the season. He has some more time to learn how to adjust. And look, I know that's something that Astros fans don't want to hear, especially for a team that needs every healthy starting pitcher it can get, for a team that has the highest ERA in baseball, and for a team that's off to a 7-11 start. But, I'm kind of with you. Like, I'm sympathetic to the guy because I can't imagine, and I know he's getting paid a very nice sum of money, and I completely understand that, and I understand why fans will go to that immediately. But I can't imagine being in his shoes. I truly can't. Like, going to a new country, a new lifestyle, a new way of doing things, and having to succeed and fail in his part in front of a bunch of people, on a national stage with cameras in your face, with people asking you questions in a language you do not know. I feel for him. But, and I wanted to mention this in the other question you asked, Kratzy. You mentioned how the Dodgers have, gone out of their way to be very amenable to Japanese players and how they recruit players. I do want to make it known, and we talked about this when they signed Tetsuya Imai. Imai said that he did not want to go to a place that had a bunch of Japanese players. He said that he wanted to create his own path, that he wanted to confront any adversity that would hit him, on his own, and see if he could do it on his own. He didn't want to have to rely on, if he went to the Dodgers, relying on Sasaki and Yamamoto and Otani, or teams that have other Japanese. So in some ways, Tatsuya Imai got what he wanted out of free agency. He said as much, that he did not want to go to a team that had a huge Japanese presence.
All right, now on to another pitcher from the Astros.
Told us yesterday through his interpreter. I couldn't believe it. He said his biggest problem is not arm fatigue. He said, I'm just not able to adjust to the American lifestyle other than baseball. Baseball and outside of baseball. That's probably the reason for my arm fatigue. I didn't know what he meant. And luckily, the reporter asked, what do you mean about life outside of baseball? And Imai said through his interpreter, the travel is different in Japan. And also the timing when players eat. So in Japan, the players, when they get back to the hotel, they eat their dinner. But in here, the players eat in the stadium. I'm sad for Imai that he did not learn enough from Ichiro. I'm sad that he did not learn enough from his agent. I'm sad he didn't learn enough from his team. Do you know that Ichiro, the number of times he ate in the clubhouse when that's what players were doing? 0. Do you know the number of times that Ichiro would stray from the routine that made him the Hall of Famer great that he is? 0. Do you know that he didn't need to be a part of American culture or a part of Japanese culture? He was a part of his own greatness culture. A greatness culture is when you do what you need to do in order to succeed at your job. Think about what you do. And I ask a lot of you as my audience. God knows I do. But I always want you to take these lessons into your own life because I do it. Our greatness culture is not getting ready for a baseball game. We're not professional baseball players. Your greatness culture is what you do to get ready for what you do every day, what your job is, what your raison d'etre is, what it is that you're trying to accomplish that particular day. You know exactly what you need to do. Do you get distracted by people not preparing the way you do? Do you get distracted by people not working as hard as you do? Are you those people who look around to your left and say, that guy's on the internet, that guy's on social media, that guy's not doing his job? Are you that person? Because if you are, you're not going to succeed. And it's fine if you want to be that person who gets distracted by other people's incompetence. I love other people's incompetence and lack of work ethic because it makes me look better to the people with whom I work or for whom I work.